party people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week I am joined once again by Liz Chaipraditkul for a playthrough of her new game currently on Kickstarter, Familiars of Terra. Inspired by books like Golden Compass and Wild Magic and shows like Digimon and Pokemon, Familiars of Terra is a game about heroic young seekers accompanied by mystical animalkin companions, as they travel the world to attempt to fix some of the devastation wrought on by a massive war that left nations scarred and people scattered. It is, in short, about being part of a generation that is going to heal the world, which, admittedly, is a pretty damn good premise. As I mentioned, Familiars of Terra is currently on Kickstarter. You should absolutely check the show notes, back the game, help it get made. It is fantastic and well worth your time. And with that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down once again with Liz Chaipraditkul. Liz, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited, and you get to play another character with another familiar.
I know. I'm so excited about it. So, speaking of familiars, why don't you take a moment and introduce the game, talk about the game, which I believe is going to be on Kickstarter the second, as of this episode dropping. So, give us the big pitch.
All right, so basically today we are playing Familiars of Terra. And in Familiars of Terra, you play a seeker who is accompanied by their animal familiar. And you basically explore Terra and you see where you can help. You're a big hero, an adventurer, and you're always looking for the next big challenge. And it's very much kind of a mix between the Golden Compass and Pokemon.
Love it. Those are good flag posts. So I am going to be playing. You're going to be running the game. I'm going to be playing a character. I'm going to be playing. Yana Mulder, who is she's a seeker, but she prefers to go by an adventurer. You know, there is a whole big world out there, and I intend on seeing all of it before my time is up. I can't stay in one place for too long. I can't do the same thing for too long, or else I get bored, and when I get bored, I get gone. So I am always off for a new experience, a new challenge, a new thrill. And I am accompanied in my journeys by my dogkin Leia. Leia is a beautiful white dog, beautiful mane of white fur, and two gorgeous giant bird wings. You know, it's everything you want in a pet, right? Like cute fur, lovely smile, 5-foot wingspan, tip to tip. She's a beauty. And the two of us have been traveling together for a little while, you know, seeing the world, seeing what's out there.
Very cool. I think you picked the best character and the best familiar, because this familiar, the art was modeled after my own dog.
Oh.
So you have good taste. You have very good taste.
Good.
Right, so if people didn't know already, Familiars of Terra uses a deck of cards instead of dice. So when you guys hear Jeff and myself talking about different checks and stuff, we're always going to be using a deck of cards rather than dice.
Yes, I've got a deck of cards in front of me. I will be pulling from it whenever you ask me for a check. I will be pulling from it. I have 5 stats, is that? Yes. I have 5 stats. Basically, the short form mechanic is I'm going to pull a card. If it is under the number listed on my attribute, I have succeeded. If not, I have failed.
Yep, exactly. So one of the things in Familiars of Terra, like you said, you've been traveling around for a while. And one of the things in Familiars of Terra is titles and trophies. And these are basically things that your seeker gets for great deeds that they have done. And when you start the game, you already start with titles and trophies. So you have a title and trophy, don't you?
Yes, I have the title of Wizened. I'm pretty good at figuring things out. You know, I've been around the block a few times. And my trophy, which was a parting gift from my grandmother, is the Necklace of the Dead. I don't fully know what it does yet, but she gave it to me to keep it safe. And she said it would help me because she knew that I was not going to hang around the family farm.
And so you have the title Wizened, and basically one thing that we like to do every time that you get a title and trophy is you have to define a little bit about how you got the title. So you have this necklace from your grandmother, which is an amazing story. She knows you need it for something. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe there's an epic story behind your grandmother having that trophy. Like, did she used to be a seeker?
She was, but she didn't tell anybody about it until right before she passed, and I was the one person that she kind of I was the person she showed her old photo book to, or her old scrapbook of all of her trinkets and keepsakes from her various travels. She kind of pulled me aside one day and said, I was in your shoes once. I wanted to see the world, and she had a scrapbook full of a leaf from a distant mountain. And it was yeah, I saw everything, and then I kind of settled here. And so she gave me the necklace, and she gave me a few stories to go on, a few places to see, basically.
Is she the type of woman you would have expected this from? Or were you oh my goodness, Nana, I can't believe it?
It made a lot of sense in retrospect, but it was not a thing I think I would have predicted. She was a vibrant woman. She kind of always had a lot of tricks up her sleeve. She loved making cocktails, and she had a lot of various trinkets in her house that in retrospect it made a lot of sense that she got them from places and didn't just pick them up in open air markets.
She didn't just have this amazing room full of trophies for no reason.
Yeah, but she never really talked about it, and so we all kind of just assumed that she was an avid shopper.
Awesome. All right, and so let's talk about a little bit about your title though, because you're Yana Mulder the Wizened. Mm-hmm. So, and there's always a description to each of these titles, and you kind of pick them based on the deed that you've done. And the deed for Wizened is, perhaps your feat was not epic, but it was supremely smart. There was no need for flashy actions when you had intelligence on your side. And there's two things you need to define when you take the title. So you need to define who or what you outwitted, and what you realized you still must learn. So give me a little story about how this title came to you. What epic deed did your seeker perform? And please define those two things for me.
Sure. The thing I outwitted was a mountain troll in its riddle cave. There was one of the things Nana told me was about this spring in the bottom of a mountainous cave system that sprayed all the colors of the rainbow. And of course I had to see this. That sounds too cool to pass up. The problem is it's in the bottom of this cave system, and since then a cave troll had moved in and has established a riddle cave, which was basically a toll booth. It's classic troll stuff, right? Riddles and magic and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of had to... I didn't necessarily... What I realized I still need to learn is that it would have been a lot easier. It would have been a lot easier had I played the game by the rules. I got the title of Wizened because I snuck by it and I outwitted it. But I really feel like I should have. I feel like I should have earned that title by beating the troll at its own game. I should have been clever enough to play by the rules and win. I shouldn't have had to run by.
Okay. That's cool. I like that. That's very, she gained some knowledge of herself that way. That's very cool. And I'd like to add something to that, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, please.
I would say probably, we don't have any like trolls in the system, but what we do have is spirits, and they're called veins. And actually, they're a very real phenomena in our game. So basically, people know that veins exist, and they're kind of they're spirits of an area. They're neutral. They're not good or evil. They protect an area, or they kind of inhabit an idea. So I really love this idea of a troll. So maybe the spirit manifested in that way. So it was kind of like a vein of enigmas.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
And, like, you know, it had, like, you know, it set up this whole, you know, it was like set up in this perfect place just to kind of test people. And that's how Yana encountered it.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it kind of adds something to the idea that, like, I didn't necessarily, like, because I think if this vein is manifesting as these, like, enigmas and riddles, and it's probably doing that to ensure that the spring at the bottom is protected, and if I snuck by that probably stings me as much as it did the vein, like as much as it did that spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. That's great. Very cool.
That's really good. Okay.
Well, we're gonna go a little bit into Yana's backstory. Do you want to tell people a little bit about her background?
Yeah. She is from the nation of Fendair. Fendair is the political capital of the continent of Tyr. It is progressive. It is a place where people are generally easygoing and friendly. You know, you're more likely to disarm a conflict with a smile than with a fist. And I think Yana is kind of directly in line with that. She grew up on a small farm, you know, small town girl. Always quick to make friends, but never really excelled at any one thing. She just kind of was a face in the crowd for a lot of her life. And that part of that was because she kept getting bored. You know, she would try out for something. She would try something, she would take up a hobby, get bored, and move on. You know, she would make friends, she would get bored, and they would start to grow apart. And so when she got old enough, and particularly when her Nana, like, got older and they started to bond over the fact that she was once a seeker, everything kind of clicked, and she was like, oh, I could do that. Well, I could do that and see the whole world. And her parents didn't hate the idea, but they kind of see it as a little pointless. You know, she should be working. She should be helping out the family. And so she up and left. Not necessarily on bad terms. I think she's always said she'd be back. But it was that first day that she left that Leia found her.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's the moment she went through her bonding with her dogkin familiar.
It was that night when she was alone for really the first time, because, like, she was from a community where everybody kind of knew each other, and she was part of a family that was very close-knit, and here she was alone for the first time. Like, Leia just kind of turned up. Not really sure. I've never known from where, and I've never really bothered to ask, because she was there when I needed her, and that was good enough for me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think we'll start playing now.
All right.
You are in Fendair still. You know, after this encounter with the Vein Troll, and after adventuring around and kind of getting out there and seeing what the world has to offer, maybe, you know, I think that Yana's probably slowly maybe making her way home for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
From the north towards the south. You said you grew up in kind of a farming community, and all the farming communities in Fendair are to the south, where there's just tons of arable land, and there's farm after farm across these kind of rolling hills, with all these small, tight-knit communities. And you're actually in Fendair, I would say, visiting your uncle. And your uncle is a little bit, well, I mean, besides for yourself, he's a little bit of the black sheep of the family. You know, he was the one who like moved to the big city and decided that, you know, he wasn't going to take over the family farm or, you know, settle down. And he just loves it. You know, he works in politics in a big city called Nestead. And he's just there making deals and, you know, supporting his candidate. And it's the best thing ever. And so he heard, you know, you were coming through the way. He also, you know, probably maybe read one of these seeker blogs. You know, there's like fandom blogs and stuff. And he you know, he saw your name and he kind of looked you up and it's like, hey, you know, come see your uncle. Come see your uncle.
Oh, and I leapt at the opportunity partially to see him because like I like my uncle. We get along because we both kind of got bored. But also because, like, it's a big city. Like, I never get to see big cities. It's kind of... The thing about being an adventurer is it's always distant locales and never just, like, a city. And so it's exciting to see something new.
And you arrive in Nestead, and it's very similar, I would say, to Chicago, if you know what Chicago looks like.
Yeah.
It's a big city on next to a lake. And basically it has wide avenues and it's a bustling sky rail system. And, you know, you kind of see cars zooming everywhere, but there's also pedestrians walking about. And right next to this very large lake, there's a really beautiful nature area that they have, a park where people kind of run about and relax and hang out with their familiars. But everyone in the city seems very busy all the time. And probably the most startling thing to you is that the familiars here in Nestead are very similar to those of your home. You know, there's horses, there's large kind of water dogs and stuff. So like you and Leia are kind of, as you're there, jostled from side to side as, you know, someone walks by with their horsekin and another one comes by with their Labradorkin, all kind of very busy on their way to work.
And I think this is happening, and I am laughing wide-eyed a little bit in astonishment. I'm like, this city feels so cramped, and yet the familiars are so large. It's a striking contrast that I can't help but laugh at, and I kind of... Leia is flapping her wings and flying, around me in the way that excited dogs do, and I'm periodically, scratching her right behind the ears, right behind where her night vision goggles are resting on her forehead, and I'm scratching her periodically and being like, I don't get it either, girl, but that's Nestead, I guess. And,
she looks down at you just excited, and then distracted because there's another dog that goes by who's also, wagging his tail, looking at Leia. And, in fact, it takes you some time to get to your uncle's office. Mainly because Leia is often waylaid by another dog, and she's fast and she can flit up and down and fly, but that just makes it all the more enticing for the other dog who wants to say hello to kind of run after her.
And I think there's probably once or twice where I am the one getting waylaid, where I see a familiar and I'm like, whoa, what is... Oh, wow. And Leia's kind of got to, tug at my pant leg and be like, all right, yeah, I gotta... Okay, you're right.
So she focuses you and gets you down to business to go visit your uncle. So you head to your uncle's offices, and he's actually working for a young politician. Well, youngish. He's in his early 40s. But he... And he's running for the governor's office of this particular area, and Rodkir, that's your uncle. He's kind of the campaign manager for him. So when you go into the offices again, it's a giant office because they've made space for all the familiars, but I mean it's packed, it's bustling. There's people running everywhere. As you and Leia kind of open the door, a dogkin runs through the door, and you see that like on his back he has like a little messenger tube, and he kind of like looks up really quickly at you guys, and then like goes about his business through the door. And you see your uncle at the back, and he has a telephone leaning against his shoulder, and he kind of motions you guys over with his hand, like, come here. But he's talking really quickly on the phone, and he motions in front of him for you guys to sit down.
And I kind of mosey over a little bit slower than the hustle and bustle of the rest of the office, but eventually I kind of make, because I'm really taking in the sights and just sort of like, this is new in its own way. And eventually I kind of just like settle in, I pull up the chair, I lean back, I kick my feet out in front of me a little bit. I think Leia lands on my lap, and she's not a small dog, so I kind of like lean forward, like, ooh, okay, all right, good girl.
So your uncle's he finishes up his call on the phone. He's like, no. I can absolutely guarantee you his son definitely did not say that. No. Like, you know what? Let's talk about it. Okay. I think I have Tuesday free. Let's talk about it on Tuesday. We'll have lunch. And with that he hangs up the phone, and he lets out a huge sigh.
Busy day in the office?
You have no idea. And with that he kind of walks over behind his desk and holds out his arms to you to give you a big hug.
And I sit up at first, and Leia doesn't want to move, and then I have to like sit up very quickly, and she kind of scrambles and then falls to the floor and stands up, and it's just just happy to be here. And I give him a big hug.
Yeah, he gives you a big warm hug, and you see him when he sees you, he kind of relaxes his businessman wheeler dealer type attitude and just goes into uncle mode. You think he's like 5 seconds away from cracking a dad joke, and then decides against it because his colleagues are around him. You see his catkin. That's his familiar. Unlike, almost your entire family who have very, what would stereotypically be considered like loyal animals. Like you have, there's dogs in the family, there's horses, there's a couple of rabbits and things like that. He has a cat. And it's a scraggly old cat, which seems to only age more and more when you see it. And normally familiars kind of stay in almost a young adult kind of health, basically, because familiars, no matter what familiar you have, live as long as your seeker lives. But his cat just seems to get older and grumpier the longer he's with your uncle.
Aww.
And so he kind of looks down at Leia. He his little tail is kind of flapping against the desk. He looks with kind of dismay and disinterest at you, and then flaps his head back down like, oh god, I'm too old for this.
Classic cat. Classic catkin.
Yeah, classic catkin. And, for all the exuberance and warmth your uncle has, the catkin is rather droll and serious. But, your uncle, he looks at you and he says, Yenna, how are you doing? I heard you left home. I read the blog about you. Give me an update. You're a seeker now?
I guess you could call it that. I prefer adventurer, but, I'm a seeker now. I am great. Uncle Ro here. I am great. I am better than I have ever been.
Well, I guess you weren't made for the farm then, just like me.
No, I guess not. I don't even know where to start. I've seen so much, and it really just feels like where I was meant to be. Then
why aren't you halfway across tier now? I mean, Why are you still in Fender?
That's a really good question. I guess because I promised to go home, and I never wanted to stray too far.
Oh, you, well, that's good because I have gotten an interesting call from my brother when I mentioned that my favorite niece was coming to visit me, wondering if perhaps she was going to come home at one point.
I'm on my way. I'm taking the scenic route, but I'm on my way home.
Okay, listen, I'm not the one to tell you to go home. I mean, look at me here. So I won't put any pressure on you, but I'm happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too. And I'm happy to see this city. Oh my goodness.
You haven't been to it. This isn't even the biggest one. You have to go to one of the cities in Midden. Then you'll really be impressed. Or oh my god, or travel to Amerland. Those Ameries with their skyscrapers and all the flying birds. I mean, it's not my thing, but if you want to see a big building and a big city,
I consider it on my list.
But before you go, I must admit, though I do want to see you, and I do love you as only an uncle could.
Of course.
And you are able to crash on my couch for free.
What's the job?
Well, now that you mention it, I've been having some trouble here, and I'm sure it's nothing. But it's something that I wouldn't trust to just anybody. And since you're a seeker now anyway, or adventurer, free spirit, explorer.
Oh, free spirit. I like that. I'm going to keep that in mind.
I was hoping you could look into it for me. Basically, Joel Dolman. He's the one running for governor. I'm running his campaign. He's a great guy. He's super progressive. He's the person we want in office. And he also has a son. And his son, his Sounder, is a really sweet kid, but doesn't make the best decisions. And from what I understand, Sounder got his hands on a trophy.
Okay.
I don't know what this trophy does exactly. He kind of lowers his voice as he's talking to you. But then again, you think like anyone, it's impossible to eavesdrop in this space because it's so loud, right. But he kind of leans over the table to talk to you. He says, and Saunder's been acting a bit strange. And I don't know what exactly this is. I don't know what the trophy is. But honestly, I need someone to kind of speak to the kid. And, I thought since you're a young person and you're a seeker, and, you've dealt with trophies before, or, mom's trophies, that one you have.
Sure.
Maybe you could just get to the bottom of this. I mean, what I'm mostly worried about is I don't want some type of political scandal.
Sure. No, I understand. And makes sense to count on somebody that you're not paying. Though, that's not to imply that I don't appreciate your courtesy, but I understand that there are certain things that you can't turn to staff members for, and I am happy to take on this job for you. And if I crash on your couch for a few days, so be it.
Yes, and I mean, and, I am your uncle, so, if I take my favorite niece on a shopping spree in the heart of Neestead after this is all done with, I mean, that technically isn't pay, right?
That's a family outing at that point.
Exactly. Okay, I think we see eye to eye here.
And she throws him a wink that is not as subtle as she thinks it is.
Leia kind of like doesn't growl, but you hear like a
kind of bats the night vision goggles over her eyes and lays down for a second.
Exactly. She's like, oh god. All right. So where does Yenna want to start investigating? Basically, Your uncle kind of gives you his business card in terms of like if you want to talk to anyone from the campaign, as long as you're subtle, they kind of know that you're his niece. And he also gives you the address of Joel, like his home and like where his son lives. How do you wanna start investigating this? Do you just want to go directly to the kid, or?
Probably the easiest option is go straight to the source, talk to the kid, see what he got up to, and then see if I can connect the dots back from there.
Okay. So you and Leia, you head out to basically lakefront property. These people obviously have quite some money because they live at one of the top flats outlooking the lake. And basically, Mr. Domum, the father, the guy running for governor, he's not there at that point. You think he's probably out working.
Sure.
But when you basically take the elevator up, you show the card to the doorman, and the doorman lets you in. You take the elevator up to the final floor. You hear loud metal music like blasting from the front door, as if like someone is playing music way too loud inside.
I stop myself from like head banging for a second as the elevator doors kind of open. I regain my composure just a little bit, like, and then I kind of like tweak my ear a little bit to be like, it is a little loud. And I'm gonna head towards the music because I suspect that is where his son is thrashing out.
Okay. It takes you a couple of rings to the doorbell, but basically housekeeper opens and, she lets you in. And indeed, you follow the music to its epicenter of metalness. And indeed, you see a kind of half ajar door, and there's a kid sitting there. He's dressed in all black. You see posters kind of plastered all over his wall. And he's messing with something on his MD, so his mobile device. This is a device that almost every person in Terra has, and it kind of takes the place of a cell phone, and it has games on it. It can even be an e-reader. It's just slightly more technologically advanced than what we have now. And you see him messing with some type of game on his MD, and he totally is completely oblivious to your presence.
And I take out my Nana's necklace, and I start, like, consciously toying with it in sight, but not too aggressively, just kind of, like, moving it around in my hand, just so that it's out. And then I kind of, I knock on the door, and I try to get his attention, and I kind of slouch a little bit, and, like, my natural smile that seems always on my face, I try to wipe it away, and it's still there a little bit. You can still see a little bit of a grin at the edge, but I'm trying to affect the most disaffected teen pose I can.
Why don't you make me a charm check?
I will do just that. My charm is 8, so I'm going to draw a card. And if it's higher than 8, I have failed. If it's lower than 8, I succeed.
Yeah, lower than or equal to.
Lower than or equal to 8, I have succeeded. I got a 4.
Cool. So you basically, you kind of clear your throat, and then you take your disenfranchised youth pose in the doorway. And you see a ratkin familiar crawl on the boy's arm, and basically they seem to be kind of like cheating on one of these MD games, because basically the boy's playing and his rat is as well. So it seems to be some type of like memory thing where you have to press buttons, and they're working together to get a higher score.
Good.
But the moment you kind of make your presence known, they both startle for a second. And then the boy kind of looks around, and he quickly presses a couple buttons on his MD, and the music shuts off, and he says, "Can I help you?"
Yeah, my name is Yana. I am Ro here, the campaign manager for your dad. I'm his niece. I'm here visiting, and they said to come hang out with you. I guess sort of a better to know where all the kids are at once type situation.
You did quite well in your charm check. So he kind of relaxes the way you explain it to him, like that it makes sense, and also like you seem cool. You seem like you can hang. Doesn't hurt that you're also a cute girl. And he says, okay, sure, come on in. And he kind of pushes some clothing off a chair for you.
Classic teen bedroom.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think everyone has, like, it's kind of like a Jungian archetype of a teen bedroom in the back of their mind, and that is basically this kid's bedroom.
Yep. 100%. And I can picture it as though it were my own, because at one point it was my own.
Exactly. Yeah, so he pushes the clothes off, and he kind of kicks aside an empty space on the floor also for Leia, so she can kind of sit down not on his clothing or school books. And he says, so yeah, your accent's a bit strange. Are you from the South?
Yeah, I grew up in the South. I've been kind of backpacking around a little bit. Can you keep a secret?
Yeah, of course.
I've become a little bit of a seeker.
What? Really?
And this is when I start flicking the necklace in my hand. I'm like, yeah, it's been pretty great. Yana the Wizened, they call me. It's pretty cool.
Whoa, you have a title also?
Title and a trophy, and I dangle the necklace in front of him.
Oh, and basically he seems really impressed by your title, but the moment you kind of show him a trophy, he kind of flinches for a second. And, you see him kind of leaning back as you dangle it in front of him. He's like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Is there a problem?
No. I'm fine. I'm cool. And he kind of tries to take the same pose that you had in the doorway of, like, kind of nonchalantly caring about nothing.
And I stash the necklace in my pocket and lean forward like, hey, it's cool. You can talk to me. I'm not... Like, I'm cool. I'm cool, too, and we can, like, chat. Like, if is something wrong?
Why don't you make me another charm check, actually?
All right. That is a 7. That is another success.
Okay. So he kind of, like, he loosens up a bit more once you put the charm away. And, you kind of tell him that you can relate to him. And he says, yeah, I mean, I know this is a bit stupid, but, like, I'm a big fan of Seekers. But, like, you need to be careful, Yana, because, trophies are really dangerous. Like, really, really dangerous. And like, I mean, I totally believe that you are gonna become epic and awesome, and, like, I'm gonna read about you, and stuff like that, but, like, you should really be careful. Like, trophies can mess you up.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Can you promise not to tell anyone this? Like, not even my dad?
You've got my word.
Okay, because, like, your uncle and my dad work on the campaign together, and they're both super stressed all the time, so, like, I don't think they can deal.
No, I get it. Look, there is a reason I left home, and that is because no one can deal. So trust me, I can deal.
It's like, okay, well, so, I actually bought a trophy online. Do you know Kryn Faso from the Vast War? And he basically says, she was a really famous Seeker. Like, she was super awesome. Like, she was one of the last Rathan Seekers left. And, like, I have her biography. Like, he moves and, like, he throws some books aside and he kind of pulls out this biography, this very old, like, almost, the cover is very, like, 80s, so there's, like, these big blocks of color. Like, you can tell this thing is retro, basically. Like, you're thinking to yourself, what secondhand store did he pull this out of? He's like, yeah, but, her family was auctioning off a bunch of her stuff, and, well, I thought, like, it would be really cool to have something from the Seeker. I mean, she's awesome,
Yeah, I get it. I mean, and her hand absent-mindedly goes back to her pocket when she says, like, knowing that you've got something from a great seeker is, like, such a cool feeling. Like, it feels like you're there with them, right?
Well, I thought it would be, but, like, I got this thing called the restless arm, and I think they call it restless because, like, it doesn't let you sleep. Like, I had nightmares really bad, and I don't mean, like, I'm not a wuss, you know? But, like, I had the worst dreams of my life. Like, I was right there with Kryn, like, in the vast war fighting, and her familiar, and oh man. And he kind of runs his fingers through his hair.
Well, what happened? What happened to what did you do with the restless arm then?
Oh. Well, like, don't worry about it. Like, can't hurt anybody ever again.
Why not?
Well, like, so it gave me really terrible nightmares. Like, you don't even know. He's like, I mean, I've never been in war. Like, you've never been in war, I guess. Like, I mean, nothing. I mean, we're pretty lucky how it is now. It just made me realize, you know, take stock of my life. And you kind of hear him talking around. You know, for like a couple minutes, he kind of talks around your question.
Mm-hmm.
Finally gets to it. He's like, but what I mainly want you to know is, like, you don't have to worry about it because I threw it away.
You threw it away?
Well, at first I thought I was going to put it... So, I had a thought process, right? I was like, I don't want this to hurt anybody. So I couldn't put it down the garbage chute here because, you know, I know the concierge. He takes out the trash and he's a really cool guy. So then I thought, where would this never hurt anyone ever again? So when I was walking to school the other day, I threw it in the sewer.
All right, now that's pretty cool. That's pretty smart. You know, that's real smart, but, like, don't you think somebody could still find it, though? Like, people go in the sewer sometimes, and, like, stuff from the sewer washes up.
Oh. Oh, man. And he, you know, he puts his head in his hands again, and he kind of starts rocking back and forth slowly.
Hey, listen. It's gonna be okay. You know why?
Why? Oh, no, you're not going to tell your uncle, are you?
No, better. It's gonna be okay, because you're friends with a great and a mighty seeker who's gonna be totally epic and totally awesome someday. I'm gonna get that trophy back.
You are? And basically you see his ratkin kind of, like, peek out from behind his hoodie, like, hopeful.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it back, and then we'll figure out what to do with it from there. But, like, it sounds like a bad scene, and I think you were right to get rid of it, but we just gotta figure out... I want to figure out what it does, and how to best get rid of it in the responsible way.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a good idea. Like, you know, you're a professional. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I am a professional. And I kind of, like, give it side-to-side glances, and Leia just kind of, like, turns around.
All right, so Yana the professional, how exactly are you going to go about retrieving this trophy from the sewer?
Well, guess I gotta go back. Guess I gotta get into sewer diving, I guess.
Okay. Well, he basically shows you where he dumped it. And basically it's along, so there's kind of a river walk which leads out to the lake. And he takes that walk basically from his family's apartment into the city to go to school. And basically along the river walk, there's kind of all these built-in grates, which kind of lead into the sewer. And he takes you there, and he shows you basically where he kind of pulled up the grate and threw in the trophy. And he says, yeah, like, maybe it's just right down there. And, like, we don't have to do anything.
That's what I'm hoping.
He says, cool. Do you need me anymore? Like, I can always, like, stay out here.
Yeah, that's probably best. It's probably best if I head in solo. I like to work alone. No offense. I mean, you'll still get the credit. Like, feel free to tell everybody that we did this together, but you're going to play an important role and you're going to stay lookout.
Oh, he's like, that's cool, because Joe, and he looks at his ratkin, he's like, Joe doesn't like to get dirty anyway.
Sure, I totally get it. Well, Joe, you're going to stay out here. You're going to take care of You're going to take care of both of you, and we're going to go in and find that trophy.
How does Leia feel about going into a cramped, gross sewer?
She has not gone near the ground and has kept, like, a safe distance from me, and I kind of have to, like, I take the first few steps into the sewer, and I turn around and she's still outside, and I'm like, Leia, get over, Leia, and I reach into my pocket, and I pull out, maybe a dog treat or a piece of jerky or something, and I'm like, huh? And she doesn't go, it takes a frustratingly long time for her to go for the treat.
like in one point she can't resist it, but like she wants to resist.
Yeah. She's like, she's like, I'm gonna go for the treat, but I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Alright, so you guys, I think you probably need to find an entrance where you can actually get down into the sewers, because this grate just isn't large enough for you to squeeze through. And for Leia either, at least in a inconspicuous manner. I mean, also because Leia's wings are so large, it would just be very difficult. Do you want to make me an awareness check to see kind of where you could get in and look around?
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to pull. I got an 8. My awareness is a 7, so that is not a pass. Now, can I make an awareness for Leia?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Leia gets a 10, her awareness is a 10, so Leia finds something useful.
Okay. And I would say, that's also just a success, but I would totally attribute that to the fact that, like, Leia probably knows where an entrance is, but she takes her good time finding one to kind of, like, assist you because she doesn't want to go into the sewer.
Yeah, it's absolutely, like, Leia found it real quick, and I have just been, like, trying to climb into these tiny grates and getting a little bit stuck and being like, I don't know what we're gonna do. And then finally Leia, like, kicks up a manhole somewhere.
Exactly. All right, so you guys lower yourselves down. Leia kind of floats down, I guess, with her wings. She kind of creates a thing that she can kind of go down. And you climb down the manhole cover. And you kind of trace your way back to where this trophy would have dropped. You see above you. You actually see the edges of Saunders' shoes, and you see his ratkin, like, very curiously kind of. You see a little sniffing nose, but looking around you, you don't see anything, and it's actually rather dark in the sewers.
Well, luckily for me, Leia has a pair of night vision goggles that I kind of slide down over her eyes. I fasten the chin. I make sure it's not too tight because, I want her to be able to bark if there's danger or if she's hungry or anything. Because I'm going to give her a steady flow of treats until this job is done. I think I've just got, like, a pocket on my jacket that is just full of little, like, kibble pellets that I periodically just have to take one out of and be like, here you go. Okay. Hey, you just got one. You don't need another one already.
And she just so daintily takes them too, like, just barely touching your hand. And like you flip down the little goggles, and her, Leia's sight adjusts so she can see well here. So you guys won't get any, negatives on your check, basically, as long as Leia's making the awareness checks to look around. And she does notice there is a water flow here in the sewers, and it's leading down towards the lake. Not that all the sewer's dumping out into the lake or something, but that's where the water heads.
Sure.
And you guys are a couple of kilometers away from the lake at this point.
If we don't see the trophy around, I guess the only place to go is down. I mean, follow the water flow, and eventually we have to find either a stoppage or something that would have caught the trophy. So theoretically, if we just follow this water flow, we find the trophy, provided it hasn't been taken.
Yeah, well, you follow the water flow, and as you're walking down, and I guess Leia's flying as much as you can. These are, because service workers have to come down and into the sewers, and because Fendarian familiars are rather large, these are large sewers that you can walk through. And so Leia can also fly. I mean, she can't maneuver, but flying in a straight line is no problem.
Right.
As you walk down, you feel the air getting colder around you. Not just the fact that you're heading towards a large body of water, but it almost just feels uncomfortably cold. As if there's something more to this chill. Some unseen presence that you don't necessarily, or you can't necessarily explain. And as you feel this kind of wave coming over your body of this unnatural chill, you also feel around your neck your grandmother's pendant. It feels icy almost.
I kind of put one hand on it, and I just whisper, Nana, it would be really helpful if you had told me what this does before I wore it, but if it's got anything to do with what's happening right now, it would be really great to feel it.
And almost as if, your wish, your wanting is kind of put into this trophy, and also I think very much speaking to your title and the person you are, and just wanting to know more. You feel it getting colder in your hand as you take a couple of steps, and almost on cue, when you feel like the trophy is trying to tell you something, you hear off in the distance, you hear groans.
And I think the second I start to hear groans, I don't think I push past Leia, because I don't think I really can comfortably, but I kind of tap her on the haunches, and I'm like, go, 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 that's that way. And I start kind of shuffling us towards the groaning. Still clutching the necklace with one hand.
And as you get closer to the groaning, the necklace gets colder and colder, as if it's sensing something. And you guys basically come to you come to the edge. And I won't say that you go in yet. But you come to the edge of a large chamber. And you hear kind of ruckus. You actually hear kids' voices. And they seem to be afraid, and you hear this groaning, and what Leia sees is that there's a group of kids in one of these big outlets for all the sewage systems, which is kind of, right now, the different pipes aren't active, and the kids are on this ledge, and they're kind of standing in front of something. You can't see what it is. Kids seem to be around the ages of 14 to 16. And they are terrified. But you can't see what they're terrified of, but you kind of get a feeling. And basically this is the sense from this trophy. You kind of get a feeling of generally the cold spots in the room. Where something must be.
I am going to, without hesitation, run into the room and try to run towards where I sense that cold spot to be, Nana's telling me something, so I should probably check it out.
Okay, so you're going to go right for it.
Yeah.
All right.
No hesitation.
No hesitation whatsoever. So it's still dark. So basically what I'm going to actually call for an agility check to like make sure that you get right there. But I would say it's up difficulty unless Leia is going to assist you in some way. Is there anything that Leia does to help you out?
I think I'm going to say yes. I think Leia kind of lands on my back, paws on my shoulders, and is kind of like, I think that we have a trick that we've worked on a little bit, where when it's navigating in the dark, she has her goggles on and she kind of like nuzzles the sides of my head as though to be like, hey, go this way, go that way, and like a series of non-verbal cues to like basically illustrate like stop here, go left, go right, and is kind of like guiding me along that way while riding me like Luke and Yoda.
Yeah, I was going to say, or like Master Blaster.
Yes, absolutely a Master Blaster situation.
Awesome. Okay, in that case, please make me an agility check.
Okay, I got a 4, which is a success.
Yeah, because basically Leia has this trait, which is night vision goggles, so she can see in the dark. You can communicate with her. So she doesn't need to make a check to help you. It's one of her traits, which she can do. And you succeed very well. So you just beeline it for this cold spot. No hesitation whatsoever. And as you're running, and these are kind of passing thoughts because you aren't hesitating. You're just jumping right in. You see these kids and they each seem to be kind of terrified, but in their own way, as if there's 3 of them and they seem to be living in their own little nightmare almost. And you jump for one of these 3 corresponding cold spots and you jump into it. And for a moment you're just freezing and confused. All of your ability to kind of see, hear, speak is gone, and all you have is that feeling of just frigid cold and sadness. And when you finally come to from that, you realize that you're not in the sewers anymore. And where you are, basically, is that you look around and you realize that you're on a battlefield. And this is something that you've never experienced before, and it's just heart-wrenching. You see familiars fighting familiars off in the distance. You hear the sounds of bombs going off, and it's just absolute chaos around you. But right below you, what you see is that there is actually a woman there, and she is wounded, and she is dying. And one of the kids that you saw in the sewer is there, and she's crying over the woman.
And I, keeping my head down, sort of pulling my jacket, like pulling the collar of my jacket up to guard my face a little bit, I kind of like half crawl, half run over to the girl and the dying woman, and I put a hand on her shoulder and I just say, "What can I do to help?"
All right. The girl is she's not catatonic, but it almost seems as if she's in her own world, like she's kind of living with this woman, frozen in time. And even though you're being comforting, it doesn't seem like you're breaking through to her.
And I sit back and I try to think, how can I get through to her? And I call Leia over.
All right. Leia bounded after you, and she is your loyal familiar. So if you dive into this cold space, she will dive in with you, basically. So she comes over to you, though. She seems very confused about what she's seeing around her.
This is not good, girl. This is a tough scene. She doesn't seem to be responding. I want to try something though. Leia, could you curl up with that woman? Maybe around the arm? I have a feeling with this, if what we found was the restless arm, and it was linked to this woman and her war experiences, I have a feeling that it might be toxic in some way, that it might be cursed and spreading that pain of what she experienced throughout. And I know you're pretty good at dealing with toxic things.
Okay, so you actually want to activate one of her traits, which is her making a charm check to see if she can kind of purify an item.
Yes.
Okay. So Leia goes up and she curls around this woman's arms, and as she does so, you kind of see this scene almost replaying itself. It almost seems as if it's like kind of this endless thing that continues and continues and never stops. And make me a charm check.
That is a 2. Her charm is a 9. That is a big success.
Very good success. So Leia curls up around this wounded soldier's arm, and she uses her powers to purify this area. What does that look like? Does it look like anything?
I think what it looks like is we're in this loop and things are playing, and it almost looks like if you've ever seen a film roll that is breaking, there's that moment where it loops and it loops and it loops and it starts looping faster and faster, and then all around us the reel starts to burn up, and smoke, holes start just burning into the battlefield all around us, and that frigid feeling is replaced with an uncomfortable warmth as I feel it in the necklace of it almost becomes burning hot, right? And everything starts to cinder away.
Cool. Okay, so that happens basically. And as it does, you see a moment of rest, just as the last bits, the last thing to burn away really is this woman. The first thing you realize that the one of the kids over the woman has disappeared, but the last thing that seems to burn away is this woman. And for a moment, you don't see happiness on her face. But you see a look of peace that she's been recognized, that someone has experienced what she experienced in a very real way, and they saw her, and they were with her.
And I kneel down on one knee as she's fading away, and I just say, "You had quite a life. You were extraordinary. I know what you went through, and I won't forget it."
And with that, the woman fades away, and the last bit of the film kind of flickers off into a flash of light, and you realize that you're in the sewer again.
And I kind of sit back, and I laugh a little bit, and I pet Leia extra hard. I give her extra hard scratches behind the ears. And I just give her, a handful of kibble pellets. Way more than you probably should for just, a snack. But I'm just here you go, girl. You did good.
She happily munches down on them. I'm assuming. And the kids kind of snap out of it. And they all are like, it's a mix of like, what happened? Like hugging each other, like laughing, saying hello to you. Just like 15 minutes of really intense teenage emotional babble.
And I just kind of sit back and let it happen, because I'm just like, yeah, I was there once.
Albeit like probably 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. I'm in no way like old enough to have that kind of like, yeah, once upon a time, but
once all that's kind of over and you kind of regain your composure, you notice the trophy. So basically you see the trophy, the kids were standing in front of it, and indeed it is a desiccated arm. It's kind of creepy, but it's definitely like, I mean, that's something your Nana would have in her house in a very weird way.
Yep. And I reach for it, I grab it, assuming none of the kids try to stop me from taking it.
No, like, you guys did go through that kind of babble of, like, kind of why you're there, kind of like, oh my god, thank god you're here type thing. And they let you, they're like, let the professional do this.
And I take it, and I kind of, like, pack it up in the messenger bag that I have. And I'm like, come on, let's get out of the sewer. This isn't a place to be hanging out.
Cool. As you grab the trophy, you get the feeling that it has more stories to tell you, and that stories that need to be told, but afterwards it may have some interesting effects.
Cool. Excellent. And I hold on to it, and I just, like, guide everyone back out of the sewer the way I came.
Okay, cool. Yeah, they follow you. The cold spots are gone, and when you get back up there, you see Sander waiting there with his rat Joe. Both of them kind of anxiously, like, standing there. He doesn't hold his hands like a rat, but he's anxiously petting his rat, and his rat's kind of there, like, folding its hands in on itself, hoping that you guys are all right.
And I go up to Sander, and I'm like, we got it. It's taken care of. Don't worry about it. It's gone. We will dispose of it. You did good.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. You are like the coolest seeker I've ever met. I mean...
Yeah, I know.
You're the only seeker I've ever met, but I'm pretty sure if I met more seekers, you're like, oh man, oh, thank you so much, Yana.
Hey, don't mention it. All right. Well, here's what I need you to do. I gotta go properly dispose of this trophy. I need you to take these kids home.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. I'll meet you back at your place. I got some metal recommendations that I think you're gonna dig.
He's like sweet, and he goes off with the kids, and he's indeed true to his word. Like he takes them home, and then he goes home and waits for you.
And I go straight to Uncle Rohir, and I kind of like burst into the office, and I grab a chair, and I wait for him to I wait for his attention, because I assume he's still on a phone call.
Oh yeah, he's on a phone call, and he's like also simultaneously like dictating something to an intern, and the intern's like furiously writing down on a pad what your uncle's saying. But your uncle does like kind of cock an eyebrow at you of like, she seems pleased with herself type look. He finishes things up, and he's like, he says to his intern, he's like, go write that up for me. And the intern says, yes, sir, I'll go do that right now. And he runs off. And your uncle kind of just looks at you with a wry smile.
And I explain, all right, scandal solved, trophy recovered, but you gotta do something for me. You gotta take that kid out once in a while. He's bored. He wants excitement. He reminds me of myself at that age. He's looking up to seekers. He wants to He wants to do something big, and that got him into trouble this time. So promise that you'll take care of this kid. He's a good kid.
All right. I mean, I guess we could involve him more in the campaign. I mean, it's just... you know what? All right. The trophy's dealt with.
The trophy is dealt with.
And, all right. I don't even want to know. Plausible deniability.
Better you don't. And I kind of, like, offhandedly tap the messenger bag to say, like, better nobody knows how or whether this was disposed of.
Yeah, so, like off screen, like, this is probably something Yana doesn't notice, but, like, your uncle is slick enough to pretend he doesn't notice you,
Yep.
Tapping your messenger bag, and he just, like, continues. He's like, well, we'll do something with Sander. I'll talk to his dad about it.
Excellent. Good to hear.
So, uncle niece shopping trip?
You know what? Just dinner would be wonderful. I've had a long day.
And he kind of like sniffs in your general direction. And he says, yeah, let's go back to my apartment and, you can settle down, put your bags down, take a shower.
And I think that's the moment that she considers the fact that she's been in the sewer all afternoon. On account of, she's used to this thing. And she goes, oh, right, city, yeah, shower, great, good.
And I think that's a good place to end our session.
I think that's game. That was so good. I loved every minute of that.
Oh, good. I am happy. So now basically you would get to define that trophy that you found. And obviously you found out that Yana's necklace can detect creatures from the Badlands. So that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Liz, this was a blast. Thank you so much for coming on and running this game and for coming on the show. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a fun time.
So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
You can look at our website. That's angryhamsterpublishing.com. We're also on Twitter at angryhamsterrpg, and we're also on Facebook, and that's at Angry Hamster Publishing.
Excellent. Well, this was a blast and a half, so thank you so much for coming on and running it. And I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, Past Me. And thanks again to Liz for coming onto the show. That game was... God, it was delightful. Be sure to head over to Kickstarter and back Familiars of Terra and help it come to life, because it is a really beautiful and special game set in a really wonderful, vivid fantasy world, and I absolutely cannot endorse it enough. Also, be sure to head over to Twitter and follow all of Liz's work at Angry Hamster RPG. Then, while you're on Twitter, you can follow this show at Party of One Pod, then slide over to Facebook and like the show at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. Then you can head over to the Party of One Discord at bit.ly/Party of One Discord and talk about the show, role-playing games, professional wrestling, all of the things people talk about. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shoutout, or just a word-of-mouth recommendation to a friend. Any of those things help new listeners find the show, which helps us do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also consider backing us on Patreon at patreon.com/Party of One Podcast. Patreon backers get access to bonus materials, podcasts, and interviews. And Patreon dollars help pay for hosting fees, equipment costs, new games to be played on the show, and convention appearances. All the little things that help the show run along smoothly. If you'd like to hear more from me, consider checking out All My Fantasy Children, the character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by your listener prompts, hosted by me and my best friend Aaron Catano Saez. You can find that at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you're interested in coming onto the show, whether you're a podcaster, game designer, voice actor, professional wrestler, commentator, referee, newscaster, actor, writer, or you just love a good role-playing game, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.